Well, hello there, and welcome to Elder Scrolls Spotlight, a podcast about roleplay and roleplayers in the Elder Scrolls Online MMORPG. My name is Mikey, and I'll be your friendly neighborhood commentator for the evening. I'd like to welcome you to episode 0 of this podcast. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Episode 0. That's kind of an odd title for your first episode, isn't it? You typically start with the number 1, then count on to 2, then 3, and 4, like a normal person. Well, first things first, I'm not exactly a normal person. Second thing is, the reason I start with 0 is because I'd like to take this episode out to explain what I hope to accomplish with this podcast, what it is that I'd like to do with it, and the format of this podcast. You see, I'll be taking several cues from other programs, such as the Joe Rogan Experience, the H3H3 podcast, and the most influential one to me, Inside the Actor's Studio. Now, I don't mean to be making plugs about these programs, but allow me just a small moment to explain what I like about each of them, and how they relate to what I hope to do. The Joe Rogan Experience is a podcast hosted by comedian and UFC commentator Joe Rogan. In it, he tries to have long, open conversations with people from all walks of life, from right-wing political populist commentators to fellow comedians. His podcast is relatable to a large number of people because of the conversational format he has with his guests. He tries to dissect their opinions and see where their line of thinking stems from. The H3H3 podcast is a program hosted by Ethan and Ela Klein from the popular YouTube channel H3H3 Productions. They offer social commentary on the various happenings of the internet and bring on special guests such as Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty. Finally, Inside the Actor's Studio is a TV program on Bravo hosted by James Lipton. In it, he interviews actors such as Al Pacino or Meryl Streep and intensively maps out their acting journeys, where it is that they started from, and how they arrived to where they are today. The idea, at least what I hope to do here, is to have a conversation with roleplayers from the ESO-RP community. I hope to go over where their journeys in RP has taken them, talk to them about their characters and their experiences, and most importantly, have an open dialogue about roleplay and their views on roleplay. Moving right along. Some of the questions that I might ask over the course of an episode may range from, how did you come up with the character that you have in ESO, to, were there any influences in its creation? Or maybe something a bit more in-depth, such as, would you mind walking us through a significant event that has changed your character? That last question is a bit of a doozy, I'll admit, but the idea here is to have you dig deep into your RP experiences and talk about what you learned from them, as well as give some anecdotes about some awesome moments or hiccups you might have run into along the way. Now, this may bring up a concern that some of you may have. Some of you might think, you're asking some pretty personal stuff about my character. I'm not sure if I would be comfortable sharing this information on the grounds of other people taking advantage of this and metagame. And that is a valid concern. And while I personally swear that I would never metagame the subject matters that pertain to your character, the episode material can be as specific and in-depth or general and abstract as you, my guest, would like them to be. Either route certainly creates an open ground for thought-provoking dialogue on RP, which is the entire focus of this podcast. Wherever the interview goes is up to you. I'm just the commentator. With that being said, I'm going to end this short episode by getting into the conventional format of each episode. I hope to have each episode to be 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes long. The episode itself is going to be relatively simplistic. Maybe a short intro where I talk about what our guest has done, then get into the interview, which is the meat and potatoes of the episode, and then finally sign off. I'm going to shell out an episode at least twice a month, typically the first and third Monday. This is what I hope to aim for. Maybe, if all goes well, if people like the program, I'll end up increasing the frequency of episodes and have a lot more guests on. If any of you would like to get in contact with me, you can poke me on the game as at YFN Commentator. That's YFN, all in caps, _ capital COMMENTATOR. Or you can leave a reply on this forum thread, or send me an engine mail, or, and this is the last or I promise, email me at idon'tLikeMondays@gmail.com. All one word, no caps. Yes, that's a serious email. Thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you in the first episode, where I hope to interview someone who, in my opinion, has had a titanic effect on the RP community. See ya.